Thank you, Presiding Officer. During the pandemic, Nicola Sturgeon made government decisions over WhatsApp. She was ordered by the UK COVID inquiry to retain those messages. The former First Minister promised to provide them. She said, "I have nothing to hide." But we now know she deleted them all. She broke promises to grieving families. She may have broken the law. Does the First Minister accept it was completely wrong and utterly scandalous for Nicola Sturgeon to delete those messages?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, before I answer Douglas Ross's question of substance, can I just say at the offset, given this is the FMQ's before Holocaust Memorial Day, that it has never been more important to remember the victims of the Holocaust, and indeed with genocides which followed. Together we remember the millions of lives that have been cut short with the utmost cruelty and brutality. The freedom and dignity of every citizen relies on our willingness to defend each other's human rights and to stand up against cruelty and violence everywhere in the world. It's a responsibility that we share equally. It's the responsibility of all of us to remember the Holocaust and, of course, to pay tribute to the survivors of those atrocities. So ahead of Holocaust Memorial Day on Saturday, my thoughts today, and I hope that everybody's thoughts, my thoughts every day, should be with those who were affected then and those who are affected still. Let me come on to the... Let me importantly come to the issue of substance, and I will start this exchange as I have started exchanges on this issue in recent weeks and months, and that is by giving first and foremost an unreserved apology to those families who were bereaved by COVID in relation to our handling of the issue of informal communication such as WhatsApp. As an organisation, on the issue of WhatsApp messages, we did not handle the request in a way that gave families that have been bereaved by COVID confidence. In fact, quite the opposite. And they have asked for nothing unreasonable. They've asked for answers. They've asked for the truth. And I will certainly do that when I appear in front of the inquiry later today. Douglas Ross is asking me about Nicola Sturgeon. Of course, Nicola Sturgeon, I believe it's now been confirmed, will appear in front of the COVID inquiry next week. She will answer for herself. What I would say is when it comes to any decisions that are made, as per records management policy, any decisions, whether it's made over WhatsApp, whether issues are discussed over email, over telephone call, any communication, any method of communication that's used, it's so important that those points are then, of course, uploaded to the corporate record, any decisions that are made and any salient points. What I would say to Douglas Ross, and I'll end on this point, is we have, of course, handed over 28,000 WhatsApp messages, mine's included. That's in very stark contrast to the Prime Minister, of course.
Douglas Ross.
Can I fully associate myself with the First Minister's remarks ahead of Holocaust Memorial Day on Saturday? But I asked a very simple question. What did he feel about Nicola Sturgeon deleting these messages, and we heard nothing? But while Nicola Sturgeon led the cover-up and the secrecy, she wasn't alone. The then Deputy First Minister, John Swinney, also deleted his messages. And isn't it telling that neither of them can be in the chamber today? So while they deleted messages, let's look at some of the messages we have seen. The Chief Medical Officer, Professor Gregor Smith, reminded colleagues in a WhatsApp chat to delete at the end of every day. Ken Thompson, the former Scottish Government Director-General, wrote, "I feel moved at this point to tell you this chat is FOI recoverable." He went on, plausible deniability is my middle name. A message from the National Clinical Director, Jason Leach, said, WhatsApp deletion is my pre-bed ritual. And he also said, just my usual reminder to delete your chat, particularly after we reach a conclusion. From politicians to civil servants, they sought to destroy evidence. Doesn't this show a culture of secrecy running through this entire SNP government?
First Minister.
Douglas Ross talks about the culture of secrecy. Well, we handed over 28,000 messages, 19,000 documents.
Let's hear the First Minister.
The former First Minister did 250 media briefings, taking questions from journalists day after day. That hardly rings true of the accusations that Douglas Ross is making of a government that was hiding from scrutiny Far from that. Every single day, the former First Minister was standing up, taking questions.
First Minister, there are many members wishing to put questions in this session. It will make it far more likely that members will be taken if we can hear one another. First Minister.
And can I say to Douglas Ross, for all the accusations that he is throwing at the former First Minister, the former Deputy First Minister, and of course they will give evidence to the inquiry. I don't intend to prejudge that or put words in their mouth. I'm assuming then that those same accusations then ring true for his colleague, the Prime Minister, who hasn't handed over a single WhatsApp message. Because if the accusations that he is making against Nicola Sturgeon and that he's throwing towards the former Deputy First Minister, if he believes that doesn't hold true for the Prime Minister, who hasn't handed over a single message, then that isn't just political opportunism, it is breathtaking hypocrisy, Presiding Officer.
Douglas Ross.
That's just risible and embarrassing from the First Minister. Look at the facts here. Nicola Sturgeon destroyed all of her messages. She did that deliberately. But some have been recovered from other people. This morning's COVID inquiry session with Liz Lloyd, Nicola Sturgeon's former Chief of Staff, has revealed that COVID decisions were unquestionably made on WhatsApp. There are many examples in her evidence, but let's just take one. With just 2 hours to go before a statement in this Parliament, Nicola Sturgeon said on WhatsApp that she was not sure what to do about the number of people at weddings and funerals. Her Chief of Staff replied, "I think as we have only just put them up, we just leave it. I think we stay at 20. Therefore, a government decision to stay at 20 was taken over WhatsApp. Now, Humza Yousaf has previously said, and I quote, "The Scottish Government did not routinely make decisions through WhatsApp." Did the First Minister mislead Parliament when he said that, or did he not realise that government policy... Well,
we must hear one another.
I'm happy to repeat this to SNP members who seem to want to drown this out. So did the First Minister mislead Parliament when he said that, or did he not realise that Scottish Government policy was being made on the hoof over WhatsApp?
First Minister.
WhatsApp is a communication application rather than a decision-making tool. Instead, each minister supported by a private office. This team, of course, compromises private secretaries and ministers of staff. A private office records the specific decisions of ministers for the official record. They're laughing. That is from the Scotland office. Of course, when we asked them for Douglas Ross's WhatsApp messages, of course, which they refused to release. So the point here is, of course, that WhatsApp is not routinely used. Douglas Ross literally read out my quote. It's not routinely used. If it was used to make decisions, then of course, well, they're getting up in arms over what Douglas Ross has said.
I am sorry, I cannot hear a word that you are saying, and that will be the case for those who are visiting the Parliament today. And I would ask all members to remember the requirement to conduct our business in an orderly manner.
Because the truth is inconvenient for the Conservatives here, because it's very, very simple. That if decisions were made over WhatsApp, then of course they would have to be recorded. Otherwise, how on earth would they be actioned? So they're then recorded on the corporate record and taken forward, all salient points and all key decisions. Let me just go back to the point I made in response to the very first question that Douglas Ross asked. I do believe that there are challenges in relation to our use of WhatsApp. It has not been, frankly, the government's finest hour in relation to handling those requests. And I put my hands up to that, unlike, of course, other governments. And that's why I have commissioned officials to deliver an externally led review, so not a government review, but externally led review into the use of mobile messaging apps and the use of non-corporate technology in the Scottish Government. And that should take particular account of our interaction with statutory public inquiries. But when it comes to being transparent, I go back to the point that I've made. The government handed over 28,000 messages, 19,000 documents. I myself, as First Minister of the government, have handed over my WhatsApp messages. That is in stark contrast to a UK government, to the Prime Minister, who's refused to hand over a single message and, of course, took the inquiry to court only to lose.
Douglas Ross.
There was so much in that. Can I just be absolutely clear? I'm not sure what the First Minister was speaking about my own WhatsApps. I provided my WhatsApps from my time as a Government Minister to the COVID inquiry, and they are there on the record. Unlike senior nationalists, I didn't delete mine. But the evidence we've heard today is quite frankly shocking. It confirms that pandemic decisions by the SNP were made for political purposes. Well, they're saying what? The Education Secretary is saying what on earth? Well, let me say, Nicola Sturgeon's Chief of Staff talks of making, and I quote, purely political moves on public health to start a good old-fashioned rammy with the UK government. In another handwritten note, she says she is going to look at political tactics, calling for things we can't do. Hiding revelations like this must have been the reason that the SNP government destroyed so much evidence. The First Minister, the Deputy First Minister, the National Clinical Director, the Chief Medical Officer all deleted their messages. Discussions and crucial decisions have vanished. A top-down culture of secrecy was rife throughout this entire government. It looks like the most senior figures have engaged in a deliberate cover-up. So now it's been confirmed that the SNP made some crucial COVID decisions for purely political reasons. Is Humza Yousaf ashamed that the SNP government made purely political reasons during the pandemic? And isn't that the ultimate betrayal of the public who sacrificed so much?
First Minister.
I reject the charge in its entirety, Presiding Officer. We had, of course, and published regularly the approach in relation to the four harms approach that we took in regards to decisions that were made in relation to the pandemic. And every single day, I can say with confidence that our overarching priority was always to keep the people of this country safe. That was what the overarching priority was.
Mr Ross.
That was the overarching priority. Did we get every decision right? Absolutely not. And we will be rightly questioned about that in both the UK inquiry and the Scottish inquiry. But I know our motivation every step of the way was to ensure that we kept the people of this country safe. Was that not in stark contrast, of course, to a UK government holding parties in Number 10, holding parties in the Treasury, and the obscene spectacle of the then Prime Minister flagrantly breaching the rules while loved ones, individuals' families couldn't go to their loved ones' funerals. And throughout all of that, Presiding Officer, Douglas Ross hasn't had the decency to apologise once.
Question.